We got it rolling.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, it's 1 o'clock. It's time for our 1 o'clock speaker. So today with us we have Chris Myers and Barrett Adams. And Chris and Barrett are both penetration testers with significant experience hacking internal networks across a broad range of industries. In addition, both have performed assessments of web and mobile applications, external networks, and have launched end-to-end spear phishing campaigns. Their speech today is titled, Adding Simulated Users to Your Pen Testing Lab with PowerShell. That's right, adding a simulated user to your environment. Pen testing labs tend to have isolated boxes representing specific vulnerabilities, right? You just draw a box and test it out and see what's going on. This doesn't do a great job of mimicking real-world networks which have active users and network activity. They've created a tool set to introduce simulated users to a lab environment which enables us to accurately model real-world corporate networks and allows for additional attack vectors to be explored in a safe setting. Let's give an ISC squared welcome to Chris Myers and Barrett Adams.
Thanks a lot. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. So as you mentioned, I'm Chris. This is Barrett. Our talk is simulating users with PowerShell in your lab environment. So before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that everyone's comfortable with interjecting as you have questions, whatever, like to try to have a conversation instead of just standing up here and giving a lecture. So if you have questions throughout, let us know. And so our intros have been mostly covered, but again, I'm Chris. I am on Twitter, so you can follow me if you're interested. I'm somewhat active. I've got a number of years of experience doing red teaming, so web apps, internals, external networks, phishing, kind of the works there. And then more recently started a company, Uberi, building pen testing labs. And that's part of where the idea for this tool came from. We wanted something to make our labs more realistic.
I'm Barrett, also come from a red teaming background. Do a lot of pen testing, consulting, that type of stuff. A couple PowerShell tools here I've written recently that are kind of fun. Invoke PSImage will embed a PowerShell script into a PNG file in the actual colors of the pixels. And WCM dump will extract credentials from the Windows Credential Manager.
Cool. So our tool is called Invoke.simulator.ps1. Very obvious name. We did just push it to GitHub this morning, so that link should be good. And I'm not sure the site's going to post slides afterwards. We'll make sure we post them on our blog as well, so you guys can go grab the link and download the tool. I'm sure you can start using it in your labs if you have some set up. Sure. So before we get into what the tool actually does and how it does it, why did we build this tool in the first place? So your typical kind of practice testing lab scenario is you're going to have the user sitting down either in front of a few VMs that is running locally, or maybe you have a dedicated lab environment with 10, 20, even 30 systems up. So that's great, except when you go and then try to use those skills you're practicing on the PowerShell network, you run into thousands of systems, and they've all got users using them, creating network activity, and creating a lot of traffic on the network that you could also use during your pen test that you didn't practice. So we can't really replicate the size of a real corporate network in a lab environment, but what we can do is take the second half of that equation out of kind of the realm of having to go to a real client site to do that on a pen test and try to simulate those users locally in our own labs and get that practice. So if I haven't mentioned it enough already, practice is probably the most important part of learning to do red teaming activities, to be a penetration tester. I had to learn kind of on the fly on client networks, but definitely the hands-on experience of being hands-on keyboard, doing the attacks is what made me learn the most quickly. So if you can't practice some of those techniques, like if you can't do a phishing engagement in your lab, then you have to do that outside in the real world for the first time. Same with man-in-the-middle type attacks, like running responder to stiff network traffic. If you haven't had an opportunity to practice that, you're going to be doing it for the first time on a real engagement, and that might be a little bit difficult for you. Also, we chose PowerShell to write the tool in because most people have PowerShell everywhere. It's really easy to work with, and we wanted this to be kind of just plug and play. You download the tool and start using it right away. Alright, so what's it do? The first thing is it browses the internet. So that's probably one of the biggest things users do every day. We browse the internet, we map file shares, and we also have open emails, including any attachments that are inside of them and any embedded links. We'll browse those as well. And then it's a bit convoluted to get it set up if you're running on multiple hosts, so we have some configuring functionality built in there as well.
Cool, so diving into each of those things that it does. Browsing the internet, probably web traffic is going to be your biggest single traffic source on most networks. That's what users are doing. It's making the most noise. And simulating this is going to generate different types of traffic too. We're going to have HTTP, HTTPS, DNS, a bunch of things going on just loading the website there. As to what you can actually do with that traffic, it may not be your first target on a pen test to go man in the middle some web traffic, but you would certainly expect to see it on the network, so this really increases the realism of what happens if you open up Wireshark or sniff something else. But you certainly can play with man in the middle and web traffic, sending fake DNS responses or injecting malicious JavaScript, that kind of stuff. So what are we actually doing here? Opening up an IE process, and that'll choose one of several random URLs, load that page. Once it's on that page, scrapes all the links from that page, and chooses a random one. You can configure how long it's going to wait between each of those page loads, and also how deep it's going to go. So I think by default we're going to go 10 links deep here, which even if you've got a relatively small set of URLs you're starting with, you start on CNN and randomly click on things 10 times, you're going to end up who knows where. And then it starts over by choosing one of those initial URLs again so we don't get too far off base. Next functionality here, mapping shares, or really attempting to map shares. This generates some other important traffic, like the other name resolutions services that Windows does, so LLM&R and NetBIOS, that kind of stuff. As anybody who's done an internal pen test before probably knows, that kind of traffic is super valuable because you've got user credentials being sent back and forth to authenticate to shares and services. So with tools like Responder, you can man in the middle of that traffic and capture hashes for domain accounts. So here, just generating a random name and attempting to map that share. And that'll cause Windows to go through a couple iterations of trying to look that up and connect to it. Opening emails. So this is probably the most involved functionality of the tool here. But first off, email. Clearly important, huge attack vector with phishing. I would say probably the biggest risk to any organization is a phishing attack. Just general external risk there. And being able to simulate that and practice that and train your pen testers in that is really valuable. So we use Outlook for this, just so that it's as realistic as possible from the user side of things. So we create an Outlook object and look for unread emails. And then we will open up any links that are in the body of the email. Those will get opened up in Internet Explorer, and also open any attachments. So if it's an exe, that's just going to get run. If it's an Office document, that'll get opened up, and we are actually saving Office documents in a trusted location on Windows. So opening it, macros are automatically enabled and trusted, so those will get run. And we'll get to a demo here in a couple minutes and get to see all that fun stuff. Wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight to our development process here. So usually trying to make something work doesn't work at all.
Yeah, and then he'll pretty much ask me like, hey, do you know what's going on? But it works on my machine, and I don't know what he's doing over next to me, so yeah, I'm pretty much useless to help him out on that.
Yeah, because somebody will be 50 lines into some block of code, and it's going to take the other person way longer to catch up and figure out what's going on there. So, any developers will have heard of this technique before, the rubber ducky technique. So, take the rubber duck, you set it on your desk, and then you go through your code, line by line, and explain exactly what it does to the rubber duck. And eventually, you get to a part where you're explaining it, and you realize exactly what you did wrong. And then you're good. All right. Final function of the tool here, we're going to talk about configuring hosts. So in order to script everything we're scripting and not require user interaction for Outlook and Internet Explorer to do their things, we have to screw with a couple security settings to get some pop-ups out of there and allow access to things. So configure function is just going to set those options for us. So we're allowing programmatic access to Outlook objects. So that's allowing our PowerShell script to read the body of emails. We're setting some registry keys for Internet Explorer that will prevent the initial pop-up. The first time you run Internet Explorer, it wants to ask you questions and say welcome and all that stuff. So getting rid of that. And also important for when you're running this on remote systems, we're adding whatever user is going to be, whatever account is going to be simulated here. We're adding that user to the remote desktop group so that they can actually interactively log into that system and run things. So here's what the main options for actually running the tool are. And we'll dive into these more in depth here in a second. But standalone, that's just specifying you're running it on the local machine that you're on, as opposed to the default is to run it on remote stuff. The config, there's a Config.xml file. We'll get to that, the details of that in a second. That's specifying the remote machines that you're going to run this on, and the user account details that are going to be used for each of those machines, as well as options for how quickly you're iterating through the links, checking for emails, mapping shares, those activities. The other 4 flags here, more self-explanatory. You're just choosing which functionality of the tool we're actually going to use here. So take a look at the 2 ways we can run it. We can either run it locally. That's pretty simple. You're just going to see the simulated stuff happen on the machine that you're on and running from. So if you only have a couple machines, that's definitely the easiest way to just kick it off and you're good to go. Configure function. You don't need that to run. Running on remote servers, here it expects that XML file defining the remote server. We're calling them servers. They can just be normal workstations. But define those remote computers that it's going to get run on and pass it options for what you want to run. So this is super useful when you've got a larger group of systems you want to run it on, and you don't want to have to manually log into each of those. Here's our config.xml. This is just a brief sample of it. There's a full sample on the GitHub that has all of the options you can use in it. But here we're just specifying that we want to wait 60 seconds on each web page that we're loading and go 5 links deep And then we're also specifying one remote client here that this is going to get run on.
All right.
Have any questions? That was a lot of stuff, kind of specifics on the tool, and now we're going to do a demo to show you what it's all about, how it works, and everything. So we can dive right into that.
All right, let's take a look at run.
Yep. So the first scenario we're going to run is just running the tool in standalone mode on your local workstation, and we're going to just do a couple of the flags. So we'll simulate all those mapping of shares and the Internet Explorer traffic and show you what that looks like.
Probably are not going to be able to read all the text that gets typed in this demo, but
You're not allowed. Is it okay on the screens up there, or is it the same? Oh boy. This is why live demos are a terrible idea. You can try extending it and use font size, like 3 times large. It's just all red.
Well, here you can see the.
It's better
you
on
can see it clearly on the TV, but.
Okay, it's just small? Alright.
okay.
We can definitely increase the font size here. Somewhat better. Okay. So if you have the script locally, you can just quickly import the modules and then run the main function of the tool in Invoke User Simulator. And here we're just going to show you what it looks like to run the web browsing function and then the share mapping function. Here we go. Okay, so you can see, thankfully, IE has started, and we are browsing to Reddit. Oh no. Oh, so that's unfortunate. But you try to go to reddit.com, it doesn't see the internet right now, so it won't actually load anything. It might try to go to the fixed connections problem link in a second. But in any case, you can see that that should pop up. It would go to Reddit, which is one of the more fun websites to randomly troll through programmatically. You can get to some very interesting pages. And you can configure this in the tool, so if you're running this on like your corporate environment, you don't have to worry about accidentally getting to some sketchy sites if you just pick some more PG sites to randomly browse through. So, in addition to the IE stuff, we're also mapping shares, which isn't really easy to show you on the host. But if we run a tool called Responder, it's going to look for that type of network traffic, so LM&R traffic specifically. And you can see there, all of those big yellow blobs are network hashes from our machine that's running the tool, reaching out, sending those broadcast requests to try to look for the random share names that don't exist.
Yep, and you can actually see the Reddit traffic happening here too.
Yep. Alright, so that's what it's like to run the tool locally with those options. If you want to run it remotely, all you got to do is to have your configuration XML file on the system, run the configure hosts function, and it should go and change those registry settings we were talking about and add the right users to those to the remote desktop groups so they can actually log on.
So this is a view of our config XML here. You can actually let us specify as well as the options or the actual functions in the script.
There's a README on the GitHub right now with example code and everything, so you can go check that out. We may post a video if you can't read real well on what BSides posts. We're going to put together kind of our own video of basically this demo so that you can see it happening, and maybe we'll add some stuff to the review on like common troubleshooting issues that we ran into when we're getting it set up.
But if you do try to use it and run into any issues, certainly feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you're going to go on.
Yeah, we're going to definitely attempt to keep working on this and making it better as we continue to use it. So hopefully there'll be new functionality soon enough. So you're going to see an error go by. That's because the users that we're configuring are already a part of that group. It's just going to kind of error out on that, but nothing's actually breaking. Yep, it'll put the users that you have in your configuration file and just drop them in there in the desktop users group, so that if you have a domain environment but you just want to configure these 5 random users to be on the workstations that you want to be simulating users on, just run a config script. On the local systems. Also, I should note, so if you have, it works on Windows 7 through 2016, but if you're using Windows 7, some of the configuration you're going to have to do ahead of time right now. Specifically, we rely pretty heavily on PowerShell remoting, and it's not enabled by default on Win 7, so if you do want to do Windows 7 through the remote version of the tool like this and configure it, you will have to go in and just through like an admin PowerShell script to enable PS remoting. It'll walk you through setting that up, and you should be good to go. Alright, so this is the remote version of it. So what you're going to see happen after he runs this is it's going to first create a scheduled task on each of those systems under that user, and it's going to run that task after the user logs on. So what we do next is we create a local cache credential for the user, and then spawn a remote desktop session. So everything's actually happening in the user's interactive session. So if you're running tools like Bloodhound or anything that's going to look for logged on users, you'll actually see these users in real interactive sessions on the host that you have configured.
And all the scheduled task stuff is to get those programs to run in your user session, because like PS remoting will load the programs and then it is a session. Alright, so these are all in the process of logging in. Well, once one gets logged in, you blow it up and you'll see ID actually browsing these
And then what we're going to run through is kind of a situation, a demo of a spear phishing campaign. So we have a payload pre-configured. That's just a Word document with a malicious macro in it, and we're going to send that out to all of our users here, and that should hopefully get opened automatically. And it's coming from that trusted location on the system. The macro should run without us having to do anything. All right, so there's eBay. It's like lots of eBay. Sure. Yeah, so the internet browsing is definitely not super safe since it's quasi-random. It's just going to spider the page and whatever's on there. You can make it more safe by changing those hard-coded listed URLs, but we really don't recommend running this on your actual corporate environment that you would be worried about malware because obviously all the settings that you're configuring these systems with are very insecure, and you don't want to just be able to send someone an email and have that system automatically know. Sure. Yeah, you should definitely get rid of this.
So I'm going to send our macro doc here to the 5 users that we're simulating.
So for the email functionality, what we're doing is first we do a send receive, and then sometimes it kind of takes a while depending on what mail server you have configured. We're running our own internal mail server, but it's coming from externally somewhere like Gmail. It might take a while to do the send receive, so we wait a minute, and then after that happens, we parse the unread messages and do all of the file opening and browsing for links. You do have to pre-configure the email, yeah. So if you don't have a working Outlook or your users aren't configured to automatically sign in, you do have to do that beforehand to run the email scenarios. And so what we do is we just buy a quick home license of Office for $10 for the month or whatever, and that gives you like five installs of Office that you can throw up in your lab.
We'll work with Outlook Express.
I believe. Yeah, we haven't tested that. We're just using cheap, free mail server we found Mail Enable. But as long as your mail client is Outlook.
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
I use the Outlook Express.
I think it should. It might take a little bit of tweaking. I'm not sure how Outlook Express specifically handles, reading the bodies of its mails.
Something we can look into. I'm curious if we got that working, it makes it more free tools.
So I would expect the problems to be in the programmatic aspect. So that
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
definitely
to
check
check
that
that
out.
out. Express supports all that or not.
So hopefully this is, scroll down to the bottom there, try to check it out. So that little icon there should have some mail. So hopefully after it does its wait for a minute, there we go.
Alright, now we're opening the
Found the attachment, it's getting opened up, and hopefully automatically executed.
So, not be touching anything there.
Yeah, you can see there's no enable content prompts or anything like that, and we have a few of them gone through already. If you're familiar, this is a Cobalt Strike, so it's a command and control framework basically that we use a lot for essentially all of our routine pen test activities. So these are all of our command and control channels coming back from that malicious macro that we just sent out to these simulated users. So it looks good. Looks like it worked. Anything else you want to show for that? That just about covers it. Yeah. So it doesn't actually enumerate valid shares because what we're trying to simulate is when an attacker, when you're doing like a man-in-the-middle attack, to get those network credentials. First, we'll to that share and query it. But by generating the random share names, we can kind of force that broadcast message and then respond to that and intercept the credentials. All right, so that's it for the demo. There's certainly not too much going on with this tool, but I think that between browsing the internet, mapping shares, and opening the emails, it covers really, 80% or a large majority of a normal user's day-to-day tasks. So some of the future work we plan on doing to make it better is brainstorming additional user behaviors to simulate. The one thing could be submitting credentials to login prompts that get open, and that would help kind of make the phishing scenarios even more realistic, so you can try to harvest credentials when you're doing a phishing attack by setting up a fake Outlook webmail login or something like that. And then we're going to look into downloading files and actually transferring the files to and from real shares so that you kind of have just some additional realism and additional traffic happening on the network. We'll also look into making a C# version. So if you're trying to practice being really stealthy and you don't want to use PowerShell in your environment, maybe you have that blacklisted or something, you can just run a C# executable and whitelist that with any defensive tools you're using, and that'll be a bit more convenient. We also want to do kind of a spin-off of this, which would be simulating more systems administrator type traffic. So lots of remote access commands, remote PowerShell, administrative logons, maybe lateral movement, configuration changes on various hosts. And what this would do would be to kind of, if you have a SIM or anything logging activity in your network and you're trying to practice hunting for malicious activity that your pen testers are doing in the lab, then this will kind of fill up those logs with some legitimate activity you have to search through. That way, they can't just search for PowerShell.exe, and pretty much anything that comes back is going to be malicious. So that would be something we're interested in trying to make work in the future. All right, so that's it. Does anyone have any additional questions or comments? Sure, I'll go. We can leave that up so you guys can take pictures. Yeah, plenty. We are on LinkedIn. Did you think of that? That's certainly like we said, definitely don't run this on your actual environment, so nothing's getting opened automatically. Anything else?